G'day, you're in Cam's Corner, and it's Cam here. If you hear a whippersnipper fire up halfway through, that's just the neighbour trying to ruin the audio. Righto, let's get into it. We're talking about this really uncomfortable idea. You can have good systems, lots of automation, piles of procedures, and still have someone seriously hurt or worse. And everyone looks around like, how the hell did that happen? We ticked all the boxes. That gap between what's on paper and what actually happens, that's where today's chat lives. Across mining, energy, manufacturing, aviation, you name it, we've thrown massive effort at safety systems. Interlocks, guards, alarms, permit to work, procedures thicker than a phone book. For the big stuff, they've helped a lot. You don't see the same frequency of massive explosions or multiple fatality events compared to a few decades back, at least in many places. But they're not gone. Every now and then, we still get the headline event that makes everyone's stomach drop. And when investigators roll in, two red flags keep popping up. First red flag, repeat low-level events. Little leaks, minor trips, near misses, nuisance alarms, equipment acting up but not failing completely. Same types of events, same bits of plant, same tasks over and over. Nothing huge, until one day, conditions line up and bang, it's no longer minor. Second red flag is the one that really stings. After the fact, you talk to people on site and someone quietly says, "Yeah, I kinda knew that was going to happen one day." Or, "We've all been worried about that for ages." You hear that enough, and you realize the system didn't fail out of the blue. People could see the cracks. Now, the old school reaction is to treat those two things as either bad luck, wrong place, wrong time, or bad people. They should have spoken up. They should have followed the procedure. They should have blah, blah. It becomes this moral judgment. Good worker, bad worker. But if you step back a bit, those repeat events and those "I knew it" comments are actually telling you your shiny system isn't as effective as you thought. It might be well designed on paper. It might have smashed the internal audit. It might wear all the fancy labels, ISO this, certified that. But if it's not changing what really happens out in the field, it's not doing its job. Think about it like a bike. You can spend a fortune on a beautiful new suspension kit for your trail bike. On paper, brilliant. But if you don't actually tune it for your weight, your tracks, your riding style, you're still going to get bucked off on the same corner. The problem's not bad rider or bad luck, it's this setup doesn't match reality. So when you see those low-level repeats, or you hear, "We knew this was coming," treat that as a system red light, not a people red light. Instead of, "Why didn't you speak up?" ask, "What stopped you?" Instead of, "Why didn't the procedure prevent this?" ask, "What about the task makes it so hard to follow the procedure the way we wrote it?" That shift from blaming the individual or chalking it up to fate to questioning the system, that's where you actually start to get value from investigations. Otherwise, you're just rearranging deck chairs and waiting for the next incident. All right, let's talk about what I call nothing events. You know the ones. Near misses, tiny injuries, small equipment damage. Stuff that gets logged in the system, maybe, but everyone's attitude is, yeah, no one died, move on, we're flat out. In big, busy operations, you've got a constant stream of these. And because everyone's drowning in work, production targets, shutdown planning, audits, you name it, the little stuff often gets the bare minimum. A couple of tick boxes, 3 sentences in the comment field. Close it out with "coached the worker" or "reminded about PPE." Job done. On to the next fire. Problem is, when you only scratch the surface like that, your incident database ends up looking like a very boring story that goes, human error, retrain. Human error, toolbox talk. Human error, new sign. Over and over. No deeper patterns, nothing that would actually stop the next big one. But those nothing events are where the system is telling you its secrets. If you stand back and trend them properly, same task, same location, same type of equipment, same shift, same contractor group, you start seeing the weak spots, the places where your so-called good systems are fraying at the edges. Let's say you're in a processing plant and you keep getting minor chemical splashes. Not hospital stuff, just first aid level. Individually, they look unimpressive. A bit of eyewash, a form filled in, off you go. But if you pull the last 6 months of data and you see they're all during drum changeouts on the night shift with the same awkward valve, suddenly you've got a proper story. The design and the task method there are dodgy. That's a system issue, not 6 careless people. This is where tools like ICAM come in. ICAM's just a structured way of asking, what in the organization helped this happen? Not just, what did the person do, but what about the plant, the procedures, the training, the supervision, the resourcing? You don't need a full, all-singing, all-dancing ICAM for every paper cut. That'd drive everyone mad. But you can be smart about when to go deeper. A practical way to use your database as a learning tool is to set some simple triggers. For example, if the same type of minor event happens, say, 3 times in a quarter in the same area, you escalate it. Not necessarily to a full major incident investigation, but maybe a short, focused, systemic review. Small team, go to the field, talk to the people doing the job, look at the design, look at the workload, look at how the procedure is really used. Another one. If you read a low-level report and you get that sick feeling of, if this had gone slightly differently, we'd be having a very bad day. That's a candidate to treat as if it were a high-potential event. In other words, don't let the outcome trick you. Judge it by the potential, not the bruises. And if you're sitting there thinking, yeah, but our data is rubbish, half the reports are one-liners, that's actually more reason to start. Even just cleaning up the categories and doing a basic monthly trend, what's biting us most often and where, changes the conversation from who stuffed up this week to what are our top 3 system vulnerabilities right now? The big mindset change is low-level events are not background noise. They're early warning sirens. The only question is whether you're going to listen to them while they're quiet or wait until they're screaming at you in the form of a major incident. Okay, last piece of the puzzle, hazard reporting. Every site I visit swears they've got a well-established hazard reporting process. There's usually a form, a number, maybe an app, posters on the wall. On paper, it looks solid. Then you talk to the crew and you get a very different story. You hear things like, yeah, I used to put them in, but nothing ever happened. Or, by the time I fill that thing out, I could have finished the job. Or my favorite, said half-jokingly, if I report that, they'll just think I'm the problem. That's the gap between established and effective. The system exists, but it doesn't actually get used the way leadership imagines. If reporting feels slow, painful, or pointless, people will only use it after something goes wrong or when they're really angry. Day to day, they'll just quietly work around hazards. And that's how you end up with folks saying, I knew this was going to happen one day, after an incident. So how do you make reporting something people actually want to do, or at least don't hate? First, simplicity. If it takes longer to report the hazard than it does to fix the immediate risk, you've already lost. For field workers, think minimum fields, quick photos, plain language. Let them log the basics fast, maybe even by voice on a phone. Then safety or supervision can tidy up the admin later. Second, speed of visible response. If people take the time to report and then hear crickets, that's the last time you'll see their name in the system. You don't need to fix everything overnight, but you do need to close the loop. That might be, we can't replace this guard this week, but we've put in a temporary barrier and ordered a new design. Here's the timeline. Even small wins, new signage, a changed step in the procedure, need to be fed back to the crew so they connect the dots. I reported that and something changed. Third, make it personal and story-based. Big PowerPoint decks about our reporting process usually put people to sleep, but sitting in a crib room saying, let me tell you about this event where a simple hazard report 3 months earlier could have stopped someone getting badly hurt. That lands. Or even better, here's a hazard one of you lot reported last month, and here's what we changed because of it. That's when reporting shifts from paperwork to part of how we look after each other. And just on responsibility, reporting isn't about dobbing or covering yourself. It's about sharing what you see so the system can be improved. The people doing the work have the best view of where the cracks are. If that view never makes it into the system, your fancy risk matrix is basically guesswork. So what do you do with this on Monday morning? If you're a supervisor or manager, pick one small thing. Maybe it's grabbing the last month of minor reports and looking for a pattern, then taking that to the team and saying, here's what we saw, how do we fix it? Maybe it's shaving your hazard form down to the essentials. Maybe it's telling a real story about a time a report prevented a serious incident, or could have. If you're on the tools, your Monday change might just be this. The next nothing you see, that dodgy ladder, that weird alarm, that awkward manual handling job, don't walk past it. Chuck it in the system, or at least raise it and push for it to be logged. That one report might be the thing that stops your crew being the subject of the next big investigation. All right, I'll leave it there before the neighbour fires up the mower. Systems are important, but they're not magic. They only work when they're fed with real information from real work. Look after yourselves, look after your mates, and I'll catch you next time.